What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Uncle Charles here. Part two of fractured equity. We're going to be talking about data today. So let's get right into it. What is the best data for fractured equity? If we're going for deals where people have passed away, they've left property, heirs are lost, what is the best type of data to go after? And what I mean by data, what type of information are you going to target? So, in my opinion, after doing fractured equity for many years, the go-to list is a stack list. And that list is tax delinquent, estates of, and list pendants. So what does all that mean? What that means is this. If someone's behind on taxes, you have to ask yourself, why are they behind on taxes? Okay, a lot of people get behind on taxes. But when you stack that with the list of states of, that means that someone has passed away, and the classification with the appraisal district is now a state of Mr. Ramirez, a state of Miss Smith. That means someone has passed away and family members have not addressed it, either because there is no will or they haven't addressed it for whatever reason. Now, that usually happens really for one of three reasons. It's either they don't know about it, they don't care, or they can't do anything about it. For you, the real estate investor who's going after fractured equity, that's actually a great thing. And the reason I say that is because if you know somebody's behind on taxes, and now you know because you stacked it with an estate of list, somebody's passed away, the heirs have not addressed it for whatever reason. And then when you combine that with a list pendants list, it becomes a very strong list. What is list pendants? List pendants, in just general terms, is a notice to tell the world that there's a lawsuit filed on the property because of the delinquent taxes. In other words, the county has taken steps, file a lawsuit that will eventually lead to a foreclosure, a tax foreclosure, if in fact no one does anything about it. In other words, the heirs. So when you stack those three lists, tax delinquent, estates of, list pendants, what you're going to wind up with is a smaller list. Now, granted, each one of those lists on its own can stand on their own. The tax delinquent list would be the largest, and then the estate of, and then the list pendants. But stacking them puts you in a position to really target the properties you need to go after. And so for me, that is the most powerful list. That is the best list to go after, a combined stack list to go after when you're looking at fractured equity. Some people call it partial interest. Now, in the past, a lot of folks will get deals and they have to deal with title issues. That's what we call curative title. Now, in most cases back in the day, title companies and attorneys were seeing these type of deals. They weren't actually fishing for them. They weren't actually targeting these type of deals. But today we know better. Today we know that we don't necessarily have to go for title issues, that's a whole other way of going after deals that I will cover in a later stream, probably number 4, because we're doing 7 here. You can target the list that I'm sharing with you, which is, again, tax delinquent, states of, and list pendants. And that's going to get you a very niche property. And most likely you're going to find individuals who don't even know about the property, don't care, or can't do anything about it. And that's good for you as the real estate investor because you can step in and help these folks do something with the property, let them make some money, you make some money, and get that property from the negative rows into positive. Now, this is something that I've shared with folks in the past, and a lot of people just will never do it. Now, even myself, it can get very labor heavy, but today with AI, it can be done much faster. So in almost every single county, you can find the code violations list. Now, San Antonio, that is very easy to get. It's online on the city development site. And so a lot of folks will target the code violations list and leave it at that. What I say to them is, when you target the code violations list, you're targeting a very small subset because most people are just targeting dangerous properties. What I say to folks is when they ask me about the code violations list, for example, here in San Antonio, they will put the last 24 months. So, for example, if you're targeting code violations and you're seeing that there's violations for uncut grass or trash, most investors won't even call those leads because they're like, probably somebody just didn't cut the grass or somebody left trash in the yard. Now, if you were to download the last 12 months and stack that list, what you're going to find is a pattern. So in 12 months, if somebody hasn't cut the grass or the trash is still there, so now the code violation becomes even more powerful than just going after dangerous properties classifications or shut off water classifications. Now, let me expand this even more. If you were to combine that list with the tax delinquent, the estates of, list pendants, and the stacked code violations list, so now you have a super stack. If you can't get a deal using a super stack list, then there's something else that's wrong with you or your process. It's not the list. Because on a super stack list, what you're going to find is this. You're going to find properties with problems. And when you find properties with problems, you're going to find people with problems. And they both need help. It's not the same thing. Property with problems is everything we're describing. The people we find, the ones who can't do anything about it, the ones who can't do anything about fixing, paying the taxes, fixing the estate, addressing the code violations, addressing the lawsuit. Okay, they have problems. The people who don't know are folks who, in many cases, don't want anything to do with the property. And even if they did, they'd be facing everything that you just discovered. So these type of lists become very powerful when you're targeting fractured equity, or some people call it partial interest. The overall umbrella to this would be curative titles. In the past, how would you find curative title deals? Because they would pop up when people had issues closing deals. Today, we can target them because we know enough now that we can target these type of deals by the type of leads that we can stack and or go after. For example, maybe just a tax delinquent list. Today's stream is about that. A lot of folks will ask me, Charles, we want to go after these type of deals. Where do we get this information? The code violations list, if you want to stack it, you want to put it together into the super list, would be with the city development office. The list pendants list would be with the county records. It's a little tricky, but that's where you get it. The estates of list, you get that from the appraisal district. It's very simple. Just go online, put estate of, and they'll all pop up and you can just download them. Now the tax delinquent list, that's a little harder because in most counties across the US, especially here in Texas, you have to go down to the county assessor's office and request it because most of those lists are not online. And so you request it, and when you get it, it's usually a massive list. I've seen the list be up to 1 million records, and you have to clean that up. And worst case, if you get it in language you can't read, like TRW, it just looks like a bunch of scribble. And so you got to get somebody to clean it. Then you got to get somebody to clean it again. So you get rid of all the records you don't want to pursue, and you got to whittle it down. And if you try to do that by yourself on an Excel sheet, you're going to be there forever. Now, today it's much easier to do this with AI, but the great thing is, if you know who I am, my name is Uncle Charles, you know that I'm associated with REI Labs. REI Labs has created not only a stacker, an analyzer, a document analyzer, but they created RE. And RE is the first real estate AI, 24/7 real estate AI ever created. And the one thing that RE does that's very cool, that sets it aside from all the $1 million AIs that are out there, and like ChatGPT or Claude or DeepSeek, is that it will get you tax delinquent lists. It'll get you the list. In fact, in Texas, in many cases, it already comes stacked with tax delinquent, estate of, and list pendants. Not the code violations, not yet, but you can just ask it. It'll get you the list in the top 46 counties in Texas. REI Labs is now tapped into Florida. I believe Illinois is coming online. New York is coming online. The next one will be Arizona. But for sure, Florida is coming online. They're already testing this as of today. So anybody who's wanting to do fractured equity or partial interest, it's the same thing. across the nation, I want you to know that REI Labs is not only building the tools to help you do this, to help you do fractured equity a lot faster, understand it better, but also get the data. So with that said, guys, I also want to leave you with this. I just wanted to talk about the data today. REI Labs has created the Fractured Equity Codex. It is a system unlike any other system. You can use it to learn fractured equity very fast. It's a system that allows you to learn this system very quickly, as opposed to being on Zooms for weeks and weeks or months, God forbid. And you can go at your own pace. Not only that, you can get the data. So RE, which is created by RE Labs, also can get you the data. And there's also systems in the codex that help you do this business a lot faster. For example, analyzing documents. You're not there reading and reading for hours and hours upon hours. So again, let's recap. What is the top list for fractured equity? In my opinion, after doing this for many years, it is a stacked list of tax delinquent, estate of, was list pendants. Each one of those lists can stand on their own, but stacked together, that's going to get you deals. And if you want to take it one step further, stack the last 12 months of code violations, then add that to the stack that I just shared with you and create a super stack. Look, my name is Uncle Charles. I am associated with REI Labs and the Codex, the Fractured Equity Codex that they built. I'm also a part of the RE initiative, which is the 24/7 real estate AI. I invite you to DM me, ask me any questions about the systems, and I invite you to go to reilabs.ai. And if you want to get RE, it'll answer any of your questions. There's no human being that can compete with RE. But if you want to get the Codex, I would ask you to DM me and I'll hook you up. I'll make sure that you understand how it works. Another great thing that I want to share with you is the Codex is coming, the Sub 2, the Creative Finance, the Wholesaling, the Novation, and the Fix and Flip. So watch out for those. Those are coming. Today, however, day 2, part 2 of Fractured Equity is data. So don't forget, tax delinquent, states of, list pendants. You want to super stack it, throw the code violations in there, go get some deals. If you get a deal and you can't get it done, hit me up, DM me on any of my